Fast forward to New Year's Eve, where a couple of my buddies decided to celebrate the New Year's Eve with a bang. Jake insisted that we go visit the soon-to-be demolished houses down in Main Lane. The site is to be used for redevelopment into multiple office buildings for commercial purposes. I knew what we were about to do was not very smart, but illegal too. But hey, I knew I had my buddies with me, so I thought, what could go wrong? It was around 8 in the evening when Jake and Sam arrived at my place, and now we made our way to the bus station. Finally, after a 20-minute bus journey, we arrived at our stop. Me and Sam followed Jake, who was full of energy and intent on getting there quickly. After about 2 minutes, we finally arrived. Just ahead were the unoccupied houses, which were masked by fences. Jake and Sam insisted that we climb over the fences and headed towards the buildings. We decided to check out the houses. Sam and Jake attempted to find their way in. Oddly enough, we were able to somewhat open one of the large windows. The gap was large enough to crawl in. This was too much for me, as I thought we would simply look around the house. I thought otherwise, as I insisted that we should leave. They became rather patronizing, claimed that I was scared, but in my defense, I told them we might get in trouble with the law, but they simply laughed and proceeded to carry on. But again, I diligently followed them as I didn't want to be here left all by myself. We entered in what looked like a lifeless living room with everything covered in sheets. We decided to browse around. I felt really uncomfortable, yet Sam and Jake found it rather amusing. So Sam and Jake went exploring more along, while I stood adrift in the front kitchen, just opposite of the rugged stairway. I heard a faint creaking sound coming from upstairs. It felt like somebody was up there, and as I stood there trying to make out what it was, I called Sam and Jake over, alerting them on what I had heard. The noise had stopped now, and Sam and Jake started to make fun out of me, claiming that I was being paranoid. Whilst in the midst of their laughter, we heard another creaking sound followed by sounds of scratching. We looked at each other for a second and ran back into the living room. It just happened. Unfortunately for me, they saw the funny side to it, insisting that I was simply too paranoid, and they tried to rationalize it by claiming it was probably some bird or rodent. But I pleaded with them that I felt uncomfortable and I was about to head home. In the end, they decided to call it a day. But as we were leaving, with Jake and Sam still finding it all hilarious, I looked back at the house, and it looked like I saw some shadowy figure staring directly out from the top window of the house. I turned back. I thought nothing and started walking away as I simply wanted to get the hell out of there. I was glad to be home in my safe place, but I couldn't help but to think about what had happened earlier that evening, especially that I felt like we were not alone in that house, and what I thought I saw was real or my imagination. Whatever it was, it scared the hell out of me.